Shalom Aleichem and welcome everyone. As we Baruch Hashem are moving along in the Sefer Geula, in Sefer Shemot, and we come to this week's Parashat Vaera. In this week's Parashat, we find the four Lashonot, the four languages of Geula. V'hotzeiti etchem, v'itzalti etchem, v'gealti etchem, v'lekachti etchem. We have the four Lashonot of Geula, of how we're going to be freed. But what's interesting to note, that when Moshe Rabbeinu is talking to the people, Vaydaber Moshe kene b'nei Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu tells them, V'hotzeiti v'itzalti v'gealti v'lekachti. And the pasuk says, V'lo shame'u el Moshe. They did not listen to Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? Mikotze ruach u'ma'avodah kasha. They were short-spirited. They had no ruach left. U'ma'avodah kasha. The Jews didn't listen to Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'm going to free you. V'hotzeiti, v'itzalti, v'gealti, v'lekachti. And they're not listening to Moshe. Because mikotze ruach. They're short of breath. They have so much trouble. Pashut, there's so much pain, so much suffering, so much avodah kasha, so much hard work. You know, sometimes when you're very busy at work and someone wants to tell you something, you don't have time to listen to him. You're so busy. I don't have time to listen to you. Marshall at the hospital, right? As when I used to work as a nurse educator, we used to come onto the floors and he wanted to talk to the nurses and teach them something. And they're like, they don't listen to you. We don't have time to listen to you. We're so busy. That's what it is. But something interesting to point out. In last week's parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu also comes to the Jewish people. And Moshe Rabbeinu in Perek Daled tells them, we're going to get freed. He tells them we're going to get freed and everything. And what did the pasuk say? What did the Jews do? Vaya amen ha'am. And the nation believed him. V'yishme'u. And they heard him. And they believed that they were going to get freed. So here is the question. Here is the question, Rabotai. In last week's Parsha Perek Daled, in chapter 4, it says that the Jews believed what Moshe Rabbeinu said, that he was going to get, they were going to get freed. And in this week's Parsha on Perek Vav, in the 6th chapter, they're not listening to Moshe Rabbeinu. They're saying they can't hear him. What happened in the two chapters? In chapter 4 they believe, and in Perek Vav they're not believing.
The work has increased, no?
So says Rabbi Yosef, very good. He says the work got increased. Right? Up until then they were given straw to make the bricks. And now they had to go and get their own straw to make the bricks. But really, that's because of that you won't listen anymore, because it's a little more harder.
No, because the first time when he spoke, Moshe Rabbeinu, he made everything worse. And now they don't want to listen to him. Now he's not talking.
So saying very good, but I'm going to say even better. The Ralbag says a very interesting, mind-boggling idea. It says in the pasuk, "V'lo shamuel Moshe," they didn't listen to Moshe mikotze ruach, because they were short of spirit. But says the Ralbag, who is this mikotze ruach? Is it the Jewish people, or is it Moshe Rabbeinu? Says the Ralbag, it's Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who is short of spirit. Says the Ralbag, what happened? Hashem to Moshe Rabbeinu, go to Paro, tell Paro, let the Jews free. Moshe Rabbeinu came, told Paro. What did Paro do? He increased the work. What happened? Moshe felt. Moshe actually says this in the end of last week's parsha. Hashem, why did you send me? From the moment I got here, it's only gotten worse. It's only gotten worse since I got here. So, Moshe Rabbeinu started to feel that he wasn't making progress. He came to get the job done, and the job is not getting done. Moshe Rabbeinu, he's losing his confidence, so to speak, in order to take care of getting the Jews out of Mitzrayim. And says the Ralbag what? Why didn't the Jews listen to Moshe? Because Moshe didn't believe it himself. He believed it, but he got dejected. He came one time, he tried it, didn't work. And so now, since his confidence wasn't there, the Jews didn't listen. That's what it means, Mikotze Ruach. Moshe Rabbeinu was short of spirit. If you pay attention, when we learn Parashat Noah, Noah is building a teva for how many years? 120 years. And everyone comes, why are you building a teva? What did he say? A mabel's coming. You guys got to improve. Make tshuva. And not a single person made tshuva. Like someone who's doing, it's like a kiruv organization, and not one person becomes about tshuva. You would close that organization. You're wasting the money. And yet, when it comes to Avraham Avinu, we know that Avraham Avinu made neshamot, he made nefashot, he made people. He was able to make people baalei tshuva. Why Noah in 120 years unsuccessful and Avraham was? So says the Mefarshim, you want to know why? Noah, when the Mabul came, that's when he went into the Teva. What does Rashi say over there? He was believing in Hashem, but he wasn't entirely believing. Right? He was Mekatanei Emunah. He had small Emunah. He believed, but he didn't believe. That's what Rashi says. If you don't believe completely in something, then you can't get other people to believe it either. You have to have full confidence in what you're saying, what you're doing, and that's how other people are going to listen to. Noah believed, didn't believe, was that, whatever, and we gave reasons, good reasons why Noah didn't want to believe it. But nonetheless, since his belief wasn't that firm, the people wouldn't listen. The same idea with Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu believed fully that Hashem will get us out, but he saw what he tried to do didn't work. And he lost the spirit. He became Mikotze Ruach. And then he comes back and Hashem told him, go speak and tell him again. Oh, it's saying he tells me God with the Kachti. He tells them all these good words. But they can't hear it from him because he is not saying it with his full umph. You know, when you come and you want to try to do something the first time, all right, this is what we're all going to do. All right, and we're all excited. And then once the excitement starts to wear down, people are not going to follow up. You have to continue that excitement. And this was the issue over here. The Ralbag is not suggesting that Moshe Rabbeinu was in doubt of what was going on, if there will be a Geulah. But Moshe's message was delivered mikotze ruach, not with the same oomph as previously, because he failed in his first mission to Paro, he felt. There's a story that's brought down in the Torah Tavlin, one of my favorite stories, a lot of favorite stories, but this is one of my favorites. There was a business executive, and he had a business, and his business started to go down. And he was in deep debt. He was owing people money left and right. His suppliers were demanding payment, and his company was about to go into bankruptcy. Like, he didn't know what else to do. It was over. And so he goes to Central Park. He puts his head in between his hands and his arms, and he's trying to think. He's crying, so to speak. And all of a sudden, he gets a tap on the shoulder. And there's an older man standing there. And the older man says to him, you look like you're having problems. Tell me about it. What's going on? And he starts saying, I'm a businessman. I have this and I have that. And I have all these obligations. I can't pay it back. I don't know what I'm going to do. This old man says, hold on a second. Takes out a checkbook from his pocket. Writes a check out and gives it to him. And says, listen, I see you. You're a good guy. I'm going to give you this check. In 1 year's time, come back to this bench and you pay me back. He gives him the check. He walks away. The man opens the check. $500,000 signed by John D. Rockefeller, one of the richest people in the world. This businessman looks at this $500,000 check, says, wow, this can save me and everything. But he says, you know what? That was Rockefeller. Rockefeller gave me a $500,000 check. He doesn't just give out money like that. It must mean he really believes that I can do it. You know what? He takes the check, puts it in his pocket, gets back to the office, and starts to grind again. And suddenly he picks up his business and things start to work. A year later, he comes back to the Central Park bench. And he's waiting for this man. He says he's going to meet him there. And he sees the old man coming. And he sees the old man coming. He gets up. He's taking the check out of his pocket. And he says, Mr. Rockefeller. And as he's saying, Mr. Rockefeller, 2 nurses are running behind this old man. And they catch up with this old man. And they tell to this businessman, we're so sorry that he's bothering you. This is one of our patients from the mental institution. He always runs out. He thinks he's Rockefeller. This businessman, why was he successful? Why all of a sudden he's picked it up? Because he got his self-confidence back. If you have self-confidence, it can get done because you believe it can get done. But if the self-confidence is missing, then it's very hard to help someone who doesn't have the confidence. And that's why it's so important when it comes to our family members, ourselves, our children, our spouses.
The body gives you bitachon.
That's right. That's right. That we give them those. I once heard a lecture where the lecturer, it wasn't a Jewish lecture, but it was a lecturer speaking about children and others, and he was saying, you got to give those around you poker chips. And, you get poker chips when you play poker. I don't know how to play poker exactly, but I understand those chips mean money and mean something. He was saying that throughout the day, they go to school, they go to work, they're going to be people who are going to take away their poker chips. They're going to bother them, make them problems, stuff like this. But it's our obligation as parents, as family members, as spouses, is to give each other that poker chips, that confidence. To listen, to hear, to say. It takes a child a very far way. I know someone who... she's a speaker today. She gives lectures, she has stuff like this, and she says the reason why she became a speaker is because her grandparents on the Shabbat table would always say, we want to hear you speak. And when she would speak, they would listen with full attention. And obviously as a kid, kids, they learn to speak. And she learned to speak that way. Maybe she wasn't speaking so nicely in the beginning, but eventually brought up. It's because that confidence was given. And this is a very important lesson that we learn from this pasuk of Mikotze Ruach. The way the Ralbag has explained it. Because Moshe Rabbeinu lost some of his confidence when he first went to Paro, and now he's saying to the Jewish people, we're going to get freed, but he lost that in him because he saw it didn't work. Now the people, Moshe, they listen to Moshe. Why? Because Mikotze Ruach of Moshe. That's the way the Ralbag explains that pasuk. Let's move on to our second lesson from this week's parsha. We have in the parsha, now remember the parsha picks up right after last week's parsha, where Moshe Rabbeinu is sort of complaining to Hashem, saying, Lama zeh shalachtani, why did you send me? The minute I came, u'ma'az bati el paro ledaber b'shmecha, hera la'am hazeh. It's gotten only worse, and I didn't get to save any of them. In this week's parsha, continuation, starts off, Vaydaber Elohim el Moshe, Vayomer elav, Ani Adonai. Now, Rashi takes out an interesting point over here, that, and we know this, that the word Vaydaber and the word Vayomer, it has a different meaning. Vaydaber usually means something that's strong, strict. You're speaking firmly. Vayomer usually means you're speaking nicely, speaking calmly. Right? We have that to speak to the guy. Right? You're going to speak to them. But you're going to speak harshly to the men. It's a difference in the language.
Suggestively?
Vaydaber means the word means speaking, but speaking a little bit firmly and harshly. Vayomer means speaking, but gently. Gently. But we have an issue in this pasuk. The pasuk could be fine without either one. And it says two things here. Vayomer elav. Didn't have to say Vayomer elav. The pasuk makes a point to say both. Vaydaber and Vayomer. Why? So the Mefarshim explain based on the pasuk in Mishlei. The pasuk in Mishlei from Shlomo HaMelech says, do not rebuke a scoffer, lest he'll hate you. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love you. Right? This is what Shlomo HaMelech said. Rebuke someone who understands the rebuke is good for him, but there's further. The Mefarshim explain, what does it mean? Rebuke a wise man. Say Shlomo HaMelech is telling you how to give musar to somebody. You don't tell him, you know shoot, you devoneh, you know nothing, why are you doing like this? No one's going to listen to you. But he's saying, you're a good guy, you're a good man. You tell him, you're a good person. You come from a good family. You're one of Hashem's children. And then you start to tell him what needs to be fixed. It's a very big difference. It's a very big difference. Remember, by nature, no one likes to be corrected. Even if they know they're wrong, by nature, no one likes to be corrected. People just like to, think that they're right. So you have to tell somebody something, and we have to tell people something. You cannot. It's a mitzvah. You have to tell somebody something. You cannot keep it. Unless they won't listen to you, someone else will tell them to listen to you. Okay, but generally speaking, we have to say something. See something, say something, like the MTA subway, right? So we learn from here a very important idea. Vaydaber. You have to speak harshly, but vayomer. You have to speak gently. There's somehow your harshness has to be mixed with gentleness. When Yaakov Avinu, on his way to Lavan's house, he sees all those shepherds standing around the well, right? And he tells them, what are you wasting your time here? Right? Let's move it. How does Yaakov Avinu start that conversation? Yaakov Avinu says, my brothers. He's not his brothers. They're Goyim. He's a Yehudi. Why are you saying my brothers? The reason why he said my brothers, says the Ponovich Rav, is because he's about to give them musar. But you're wasting time. You're just going to go over and you tell a random guy, they're not going to listen to you. So he makes them like his family. Makes them nice.
Made the ground soft
right?
first.
Yeah. So look, all right, knowing this has helped me a lot working as a manager in the hospitals, right? I have to discipline people. I have to tell them to do their job. So there's two ways you can do it. You can run over, why not do this? Or you can start off by saying, good morning, thank you for coming to work. You know how much we like you. Make sure to sign into your application so we can reach you. You tell them what to do afterwards. But you start off with a good morning, and thank you for coming, and we appreciate you being here, and whether you really mean it or not. But the fact is that you say it, it changes the acceptance of how it goes on. In fact, we spoke about this on Shabbat HaGadol. We have in the pasuk in the Torah, in Bereshit Lamed Aleph, we had Yaakov Avinu after dealing with Lavan, and he knows that Lavan has tricked him this way, that way, and Lavan is running after him, and Yaakov is so upset at what's going on. It says Vayichar Yaakov, and Yaakov became angry. Vayareh Lavan. What does that mean? He took his grievance up with Lavan. Vaya'an Yaakov, and Yaakov answered Lavan. He's upset. He's angry. He's and what does the next word say? Vayomer leLavan, and he spoke gently to Lavan. Vayihar, he was so angry, and all of a sudden he's speaking gently, right? Because even when you have to speak harshly, somehow it has to be gently as well. And we spoke about this on Shabbat HaGadol, how it was also because of chinuch. He was teaching his children, he didn't want them to learn, to get angry and stuff like that. That was Shabbat HaGadol. But the same idea, that Vayomer comes out to tell us to be gentle.
Maybe not harshly, maybe firmly. Maybe firmly is better.
Firm, but
gentle.
loving firmly, right? Firmly with love, right? Children, anyone who needs to get rebuked, not just children, but anyone, they need to know that you're upset with them. But they don't need to see the anger with it. They need to know that you're upset. They need to have some firmness, but at the same time, it should be loving and firm. Yeah, that's probably the idea. And that's maybe why it says both of them, Vaydaber, Vayomer. I saw a very, very amazing story, true story that happened, the Tzaddik of Yerushalayim. Rav Aryeh Levin, Zecher Tzadik Lebracha. One day in Yerushalayim, Rav Aryeh Levin saw a young soldier, a young IDF soldier, that he was having a little bit time off from the military, and he came back to his neighborhood in Jerusalem. And Rav Aryeh Levin sees him, crosses the street, walks over to this young soldier and tells him, Shalom Aleichem, please come to my house. I would very much like to drink tea with you and hear about the activities that you do to protect the Jewish people. The young soldier looks down at Rav Aryeh Levin and tells him, I don't think it's right for me to come visit you. I don't wear a kippah. Rav Aryeh Levin, in his black hat and his black jacket, took the young man's hand on his own and says, don't you see, I'm a very short man. He was short. He says, I see you, but I cannot see what you have on your head. I cannot see if you have a kippah or not. But from my vantage point, I can see your heart. He says, I can see your heart. And looking at your heart, I see it's big, I see it's kind, and that counts for a lot. You're a soldier, placing your life at risk for all the Jewish people in Israel. Please drink tea with me. Your kippah, this is his words, is probably bigger than mine. This is Rav Aryeh Levin talking to a non-religious soldier. Now, reading the story, it makes us think that if we, the people carrying the torch of Torah, and we know how important it is to learn Torah, to spread Torah, if we wish to influence and bring Hashem back into the world and show the rest of the Jewish people that there's a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that there's a Torah, and we have to follow, and we have to go with that, we must begin by being a good role model and showing sensitivity to others. That's the only way it's going to go through. You can sit on top of them, tell them the Torah says, hey, 1, 2, that. Sometimes you have to do that. But at the same time, it has to be done. They have to see what the Torah does to a Jew. Right? This is Gemara Yuma on Daf Pevav. It says there, if they see a Jew acting nicely, they say, how good is his parents made him learn Torah? How good is the Torah that made him this way? But if Haz Shalom, they saw a religious Jew acting inappropriately, then they say, what is this Torah that he learned? How embarrassing is for his parents that they sent him to learn Torah. Bikhu Hashem. Therefore, us who represent the fact that you wear a kippah, you're already, in many people's eyes, chief rabbi. Right? They have in the news, religious Jews. Right? It's just, who knows who they are, what they know, what they do. Right? They have ultra-Orthodox. Kippah, it's black, you're already chief rabbi. This is the way Rav Pan used to talk. He used to say, you're already kippah, you're already rabbi in the eyes of the world. And so it's very important that we act with integrity, that we act with respect with everyone that we deal with. And now I want to come to our final lesson from the Parashat. And it's really a triple lesson, but it's very important. The Gemara in Masechet Menachot on Daf Pehei. tells us the story of the story. Moshe Rabbeinu and Aharon come to perform in front of Paro. They take the staff and they turn it into a snake. The Gemara says in Menachot that the Mitzrim and Paro tell Moshe Rabbeinu, what are you doing? Bringing cement to a cement building? You're bringing cement to a place filled with cement? And Moshe and Aharon answer back and say, no, we're bringing vegetables to the vegetable market. That's the Gemara Menachot says. So, no idea what they're talking about. Mitzrim are saying you're bringing cement to a place that has a lot of cement. And Moshe is saying, no, I'm bringing vegetables to the vegetable market. So the Shita Mekubetzet explains what was going on over here. What's this exchange? Cement, vegetables. The Shita Mekubetzet explains that the Mitzrim, they were under the impression that Moshe was making magic tricks like they were. So they were saying, you're bringing cement to a place full of cement. We all make magic here. We're the biggest magic place in the world. You thought Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry was? No, Mitzrayim was the biggest magic place. Big magic place. And you're bringing to us magic. We already have magic. And Moshe Rabbeinu tells them, no. I'm not bringing you cement, inanimate objects. I'm not bringing you something that's not alive. I'm bringing you reality. I'm bringing you vegetables that vary in size and shape and color. I'm bringing vegetables to a vegetable market because my magic tricks are not magic tricks. My stuff are Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's reality, right? When they made blood, water turned to blood. The fish didn't die; they survived and did it by the Mitzrayim. When Moshe Rabbeinu made it, the old fish died because it was reality, and they did optical illusion, as Yosef Shalom says. That was the exchange. They were saying, you're doing magic tricks. Moshe Rabbeinu said, no, I'm doing reality for you. Harav Tzvi Kushelevsky says, hold on one second. He says, if you think about it, this conversation of reality versus illusion was not only then. He says it still exists today. How? Because people would rather live an illusionary life rather than do something meaningful. Right? They would go on their phone and all day scroll on Instagram and whatever it is, videos, and just, did you do anything really significant today? You have to eat it. But you know what? It's so much easier to live an illusionary life. That was the Mitzrayim. They saw Moshe Rabbeinu was reality. As the plagues continued, they realized it was reality. But yet they refused to believe it. They said it's Elokimi, but they still continued. Why? Because it's so much easier to live a life of illusions than to really take the reality in hand. The Ben Ish Chai brings an amazing story. How people would rather live an illusionary life.
What's illusionary?
It's Reb Tzion. How do you say illusion in Hebrew? Imagination, like a dimyon, yeah, would be like an imagination life. You know, in America, you have this. You have people who think they're chairs or tables or the floor, right? They believe that there's something else, and you can explain to them from today to tomorrow that you're not, but they rather believe in that. The Ben Ish Chai brings an amazing story. He says that before the city of Vilna became the city of Vilna, when they were making the city, they asked the priests, how can we make a city that will forever stand strong? That'll be a good city. So the priests said, we're going to ask God. They all went to sleep. They got a dream. They woke up and they told the king that if you want to make a good city, God told us that you have to find a woman who has only one son, and she has to use the son as the foundation stone of the city. And if we do that sacrifice, the city will be good forever. So they put out a message. Who will help us create this city that forever will be strong and good? We need a woman with one son to give her up. They waited, nobody's answering. Finally, after a few weeks, a woman comes up and says, I have a 12-year-old son, and I'm willing to donate him as the foundation stone to Vilna. So they take him, they put up banners, signs everywhere, they're making a huge holiday, Yom Tov. They found the human sacrifice, the korban, for the city. This 12-year-old boy, the day before he was supposed to be used as a foundation stone, asks to see the king. And he tells the king, listen, I'm having a little trouble here. My understanding of God is that he's nice and benevolent and good. I can't believe God would want him to kill me. But if you're saying the priests saw this in a dream, I just want to talk to the priests to make sure they know what they saw. King says, sounds like a fair request. So he brings the priests, and this 12-year-old boy says to the priest, listen, I have just 3 questions for you. He says, tell me, what is the lightest thing on earth? What's so light? What doesn't weigh a lot? What's the lightest thing on earth? What is the sweetest thing in the world? And what is the hardest thing in the world? The priests listened, and they said, you know what? The lightest thing is a feather. The sweetest thing is honey. And the hardest thing is a stone. So this young boy, this 12-year-old, the feather was the lightest, the honey was the sweetest, and the stone was the hardest. This young boy turns to the priest and says, that's the answers you give me? Everybody knows that. That means you never understood my question in the first place. I don't need you to tell me the lightest thing is a feather, or the sweetest thing is honey, or the hottest thing is a stone. Now let me explain to you what I meant by my question. He says like this, I'm looking for the anomaly to what usually makes sense. What appears heavy, but is really light? That was my question. What seems bitter, but is actually sweet? What seems soft, but is actually very hard? That was my questions. Because you don't need chachamim to tell you that honey is sweet. Everyone knows that. When I'm asking you what's sweet, it means I'm asking you what seems bitter and is sweet. So he says, now I will tell you the answer to my 12-year-old boy question. He says, the lightest thing in the world is an only child being carried by his mother. No matter how heavy, the mother makes it light. She feels she's carrying her only child. The sweetest thing in the world is the mother's milk to the baby. Doesn't taste sweet, but to the baby it's very sweet. The hardest thing in the world, says this 12-year-old boy, is the heart of a mother who's prepared to sacrifice her only child. So he turns to the king and he tells the king, if your priest, this chachamim, couldn't understand my questions, then you think they understood God, who showed them a vision about killing a 12-year-old boy? Must mean they got it all wrong. But says the Ben Ish Chai, it's the same with every person. They see something, they think they understand it. They think they understand it. Did they really understand it? No. But they rather believe what they believe. They rather believe what they believe. Try to explain to them, show them that they're wrong. I'd rather believe it. Whatever I think it is. Point it out, and they still don't listen. But there's one more lesson in this. Some people experience or think they experience Judaism experience Judaism, and they say nothing there. It's old, it's archaic, it's not applicable today with modern society. It's not the way we live our life. There's no fun to it. It's not exciting. There was a Jew, poor, didn't have a lot of money, and he lived in Chicago. On his way home from work one day, he walks by the Jewish delicatessen, the restaurant. And he sees through the window that these people are sitting there and they're enjoying cheese blintzes. And he gets an appetite for cheese blintzes, but it costs a lot of money. So he comes home and he tells his wife, listen, I know we're poor, but it doesn't mean we can't have cheese blintzes. Cheese blintzes. He says, can you please make us cheese blintzes? So the wife doesn't want to disappoint her husband. She says, I actually have a cookbook. She pulls down the cookbook. She finds the cheese blintzes entry. And she says, yes, we can make it. Let's see what we need. She starts going down the ingredients. It says you need cream cheese. She says to her husband, we don't have any cream cheese. It's too expensive. He says, it's okay. Skip the cream cheese. It's only one ingredient. You can make it with the rest. She continues reading it. We need walnuts, raisins, and honey. We don't have those stuff. In years we didn't buy them. He says, it's okay. Make it without them. Okay? She continues down the list. Sugar, cinnamon, graham crackers. We don't have any of these. He says, it's okay. You don't need every ingredient. What's going to be if you're missing a few? Just make it. So, she listens to her husband. And she becomes resourceful. Takes a baking sheet with the flour and water. And rolls them into blintzes shape. Bakes them. Comes out. She runs to her husband. Here's the cheese blintzes. He takes the cheese blintzes, says, why? Takes the cheese blintzes, starts to eat it. He says, this is cheese blintzes? If this is cheese blintzes, I have no idea what those people were enjoying in the restaurant. It's so bad. It tastes like terrible bread. Right? What's the mashal? What's the nimshal? You know what the nimshal is? The people who have experienced Judaism and say they didn't find anything there, it's because they never experienced it really. They had a watered down version of Judaism. They've had a Judaism that they take out certain mitzvot, or they take out certain things, right? Thinking that it's going to make it more appetizing, but in the end, if you're taking everything out of the recipe, all you're left with is something dry and not tasteful. But Judaism is very alive. It's not cement. It's more than cement. It's vegetables. It's of various shapes and sizes. It's exciting. There's different seasons. There are different things. There's so many different things to learn, so many different things to do, so many different places to be, and to learn, and to grow, and to see. But you have to have the actual Judaism. If you have the fake version, the Cliff Notes, or you have one of these reconstructed ideas, you're never going to have the true Judaism. He writes over here, without the cream cheese, the brown sugar, honey, walnuts, raisins, and graham crackers, all one has is the flour and water, which compromise a poor imitation of blintzes. Likewise, Judaism without Torah, you take Judaism and you remove Torah, as they say, and listen to a lot of the radio clips now when they talk about anti-Semitism, they talk about cultural Judaism. What's cultural Judaism? I tell you what cultural Judaism is. You know what cultural Judaism is? I tell you what also, and maybe they don't mean it, but I find it a little offensive sometimes. When when the Ashkenazic world wants to show that someone's Sephardi, so they take out the jomeh, right? Take out the robe, right? And they go, la, 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 right? They throw some candy, and that's already became Sephardic. Or once I went somewhere and someone said, "Oh, I'm having Sephardic guests," so he took out all the spices and he threw it on all the food. He made it more spicy. I don't like spicy food, but that's the culture. The culture is you wear a jomeh, you wear a hat, and you put on this, and now they now reduce your whole culture into a piece of clothing and a piece of food, right? That's what they do with Judaism. They break it down. Oh, Judaism is Ashkenazic music, klezmer music with a piece of kugel, right? And that becomes Judaism. That is not Judaism, all right? Judaism is not a culture, okay? Judaism is Torah. That's where it comes from. That's what the whole source is. If you remove it, Haz v'shalom, then you've lost it. There's nothing there. You have fake blintzes with nothing inside of it. And so it's very crucial and important for us to remember that there is true Judaism. Not cement, not fake magic, but real reality, which is the Torah, the mitzvot, u'ma'asim tovim. So just to sum up, when we finish the recording, to sum up the 3 lessons that we had. We had lesson number 1 was, if you don't have self-confidence, then your message can't come across. And we spoke about the importance of instilling confidence in those around us and in ourselves. We spoke, second lesson was how to talk when you have to give rebuke. Vaydaber vayomer. You have to somehow put it together. And then we spoke our third lesson about reality versus illusions and imagination and fake, and how important it is for us to get the real parts and to believe and to really see and understand and want to see reality, because many people do not want to see reality. They rather live in their imaginary world, thinking that they're fine and they're okay and there's nothing wrong with them. But if a person pays attention, everybody's got something wrong with them. Everybody's got something that they can fix them. And that's why we're alive. We're alive to change and to get better and to do better. And Be'ez Hashem will give us that help. And we should see the Gula Shalemo from here b'yameinu Amen. And I'm wishing everybody a Shabbat Shalom. Okay.